And why don't we start with César and word artists?
Okay, that sounds good to me. So that'll be César del Solar, who is the lead developer of Woogles.io. So he is playing using the incredible app that he has spearheaded, along with a team of amazing other people. I myself am on the Woogles team, but I'm just a Luddite. I'm doing my best to help as I can. But really, it's the team of Cesar, Lola McKisson, Josh Castellano, Conrad Bassett-Bouchard, the UX designer, and Jesse Day. Those guys have built this app from scratch, and I'm going to just go ahead and click on the Cesar and Word Artist game, and we can take that game to you. That's in NWL as our first game, and there's only one word on the board, so we've got lots more action here.
Here we go. All right. It's all underway.
Okay,
Is it
so
visible for everybody yet? No, we're almost there. We're almost there. We're
yeah,
good.
we are ready to rock with round one here. If you can spot this game. Oh yes, these, and I also want to say, oh, beautiful play that we just saw. Cesar play his second move of the game. So basically, we can actually go back in time if we want to, and you see the move order on the right side of the screen. If you are newer to online Scrabble and maybe aren't familiar with this site, the reason that it looks a little bit nicer than what you're accustomed to is this is a newer word gaming site called Woogles.io, and that we're really trying to move online Scrabble forward here. So hopefully it looks as nice to you all as it looks to myself. And Josh, what are your impressions of Woogles in its early going?
Woogles is pretty good. Yeah, Woogles is pretty good. I like it.
So we see I'd go down in that lucrative spot. I was expecting a play like that from Cesar, just the Y and the E with those lovely hooks for 42 points as he takes an early lead.
Huge lead. This is already a bingo lead.
Yeah, so no bingos on the board, but Cesar, his last two plays, he played a beautiful play, a volumed through UM on the board, hitting two double word scores at once, and followed it up with a great overlapping play. So sometimes it's, ultimately in Scrabble, you want to win the game. It's very helpful to get bingos, which score the extra 50 bonus points. But if you're scoring that well on your plays that aren't bingos, that's still going to leave you in really good shape. As we see a play for word artists there.
Yeah, that's a very interesting play. Normally, you don't look to get rid of your S for such a low score, especially if you don't have another one. But the options on the board were so limited that looks like word artists decided, let's part with the S, let's open the board, need to make something happen soon. I see really early on Jello Mocha's wanted me to do an impression of you. I think it's a bit early of that. I think it's a bit early for that. I don't know. What would
Yeah,
you
we got to
say?
warm up. We got to warm up. I could refund him, or you could just leave that in your back pocket to do at some point in the future. I'm totally fine. Obviously, if you want to impersonate me, that's totally fine. And as we know, I have no issues of impersonating you if I'm requested to do so.
Oh God, why did you say that?
um, so Voyeurs goes down. That's nice.
Fun suggestion by Seth. Shout out to Seth in the chat of over easy from the O in no, over easy to through the E. But yeah, Voyeurs will score more, but over
So
easy would have been a nice play.
the interesting thing about that play from Cesar, though, is that Saner is a word with that R hook.
Oh
So
right.
Seiner. Now, I will say, in Cesar's defense, so I mentioned that as we see Bowl go down for word artist, which actually I'm not 100%. I was told who that was a couple days ago when we had another tournament, but I think at some point we'll try to get the roster of players at the ready. But either way, Cesar, the lead developer of Woogles, I can tell you with my insider knowledge that he was literally up until maybe 4 a.m. just putting the final touches on tournament mode. So if he makes a mistake or two in this game, we have to be easy on him because he's working on no more than 3 or 4 hours of sleep right now.
Yeah, he's also 164 points ahead of his opponent.
He is.
Yeah.
That's true.
Waven in chat says it's good to show the lexicon. That's true. So we're starting with NWL 20, just newly updated North American lexicon. And actually, what we're planning on doing is round after round, we're going to alternate between lexica. So next round will be CSW 19. Round after that, we'll be back to NWL.
So, yeah, we saw Word Artist with those 5 consonants and a blank plays bowl, and César right out of the bag plays nutating, that's kind of a flashy play. He could have just played taunting in that spot, but Josh, would you say that when you have a choice between 2 plays, one of which is a little more obscure and the other is a normal word, would you opt usually to maybe play the more obscure word and try to induce a challenge from your opponent if all else was equal?
I would say that I attempt to do that, but most of the time I'm not sure enough of the obscure word to play it, so I usually just play the word I'm sure of.
Yeah. But in those cases where you are 100% sure of all the
Definitely.
words, it could be a good
Absolutely.
idea. I mean, sometimes when you're at a certain level, honestly, I know you say that, but if I'm playing you, Josh, in a game, I don't think I'm going to even think about trying to mess around and play either. I'm not going to worry about playing taunting or nutating. I'm just going to slap down whichever I see quickly because as self-effacing as you are, I know you're going to know both of those. So yeah, thanks everybody for raid from Dave Koenig. Thank you very much, Dave. Oh, I think Dave is. I'm not sure if Dave has plans of streaming his game. Dave Koenig, a very strong Scrabble player in his own right, who will be competing in this tournament, and I believe he's a former winner of this event, if I'm not mistaken. If not, then he easily could become one. He's one of the strongest players in the field in Collins.
Yeah, as we see Scion come down, a play was suggested of Asini in the same spot, which would actually
Very
make the
nice.
nice hook ion on. It's really hard to see. Sometimes it's really hard to see like vowel hooks on already beginning in vowel words. I don't know how to better explain that.
No,
But
that's totally, yeah, something like ion or eon or something like that, where you're adding a vowel adjacent to another vowel and changing the sound of the word. I think hooks like that. So when we talk about hooks, obviously for anybody, I think most of you guys will know, we just mean when you have a word on the board and you add another letter to either end of the word, we call that a hook. When you put it on the front, it's a front hook. So a word like ion there would have been a front hook. And then if you put something on the end like an S, that, as we saw with César's play of voyeurs, the S there was what we call a back hook at the end of the word. So yeah, those hooks are really, really important to the game of Scrabble. And yeah, they can be tricky to see when the entire sense of the word changes. Like for me, seeing the hook of veto has been a problem for me in my career. That O hook on vet, which really changes the entire word. Do you have any words like that, Josh, that you
yeah, it took me years to see the L hook on Viney, VINY.
Oh
It's
man,
that one's
that's a
really.
brutal one. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, the D hook on Welt, those are like there are so many of those that are so difficult, and you have to just play so many games, I would say. And after a while, after you've missed it, after you've analyzed the games and you've missed the hook twice, 3 times, 4 times, however long it takes, at some point you'll see it, usually.
Yeah, those are 2 great ones that you just provided. So Cynical Ad
Acorn.
says, "May I
Acorn.
Acorn?" Another one. Cynical Ad says, "May I ask what is hanging around axcertypo's neck?" I'll let you take care of that question.
Yeah, good question. Alongside the cup that I mentioned earlier, we receive tons of free beads at the live tournament. And you can also get even more of those if you go on Bourbon Street and have a good time, if you know what I mean. I won't say if these beads are from Bourbon or if they're from the tournament, but they're from New Orleans, and I'm wearing them because I miss New Orleans, and it's so great to have everyone here.
Yeah, it's the only thing that we can't really replicate. Playing Scrabble in person has, a different feel from playing online. But ultimately, you're still playing more or less the same game. You're enjoying the same strategic considerations, the word finding, all of that. What we can't duplicate is the experience of traveling to New Orleans and getting to see all of your Scrabble buddies and then go out and enjoy yourself in an amazing city afterwards. So, Josh bringing that flair as best he can.
Speaking of enjoying oneself, I mean, the thing about New Orleans is, yeah, you really just go for the fun. It's the most fun tournament I've ever been to. You stay out really late if you know what you're doing, and you don't get that much sleep. So I feel like César, some part of him was actually attempting to do that on his own, by getting the 3 hours, 4 hours sleep you mentioned. He's just replicating again. He's just replicating the New Orleans flair, I would say.
There was a good question of why Scion and not Coin on that turn a few turns ago. And ultimately, I think it's as, wow, we see a couple plays just came down that César's really piling it on here. But I don't know if there was a great reason to play Scion over Coin, except maybe, again, you're just, whenever you have two plays that are very, very close to the same, you might as well pick the slightly more obscure one and see if your opponent doesn't know it. I think the odds of your opponent knowing Coin are 100%. The odds of your opponent knowing Scion are quite high at this level of Scrabble, but maybe not 100%. So maybe that was the thought process there. But anyway, we see Word Artist playing Kaf there and César responding with Saurian to go up by over 200 points. That's a really mostly insurmountable lead at this point.
Pretty much. I mean, there's still some hope. I mean, you're down 209 points, but if Word Artist, who we now know is Jacqueline Camper from Tennessee,
Jackie Camper, of course, I know.
If she sees she can drop her Z for 45 or so points next to Saurian, making the two-letter word za, there is some chance that next turn she can play a bingo from that C in Scion, which is virtually unblockable. It's very difficult for César to block that without playing from the C. So if she can get the big Z play, then the C bingo, there might be some chance that she can come back in this really, really hard game, or just play the bingo.
Or she can just, I was going to say, there is a bingo available here that would escape the notice of a lot of players, and that is Triazole, the only bingo available on that turn for 86 points to the E of Debtor. What a nice play by Jackie in that position. But again, as Josh alluded to, César is up by over 120 points here, even after the bingo. So, still a major uphill climb for Jackie in this game, but great play right there. And you can see, the definition bot in the chat. If ever you guys see a word on the board that you're not sure what it means, you can just type !define and take a look at what that word means. I think that'll help a lot of you guys if you're a newer player to Scrabble or coming over from another gaming world. We do acknowledge that a lot of the words you're apt to see on this board are somewhat obscure, but hopefully that helps you put everything into context as César plays Beth for a nice score, covering that T.
Yeah, that's the last thing left for him to do to seal the deal here. Just block the T in Triazole. The only way at this point for Jacqueline to have come back was probably a triple through that T, hitting the two triple word squares, which is non-tupling. How would you say that?
I guess,
non-tupling the score of your play. Non-upling.
I think
Non-upling.
would be, whatever that
That's
word
the word.
might be.
Yeah, Will is the word guy. As you can see, I already missed a bingo, and I'm not even playing.
Well, and thank you. We had a couple follows as the stream already started. Thank you to Anandurmian AI. That's a mouthful, but thank you for the follow. Thanks for hopping aboard. So yeah, as Josh said, that play hitting the 2 triple word scores really Cesar's only threat. He has diffused that threat by playing Beth, and he should be mostly home free here. So. Yeah, let's see. We saw Fiat go down. That was a great play for Jackie, parallel to Saurian. So basically now Jackie is in high gear. She's making some nice plays. She's bingoed. She scored 46. The only problem is it took her a little too long to get that engine started, and Cesar has been pouring it on the entire game. So we'll see what there is. That Q still lurking in the bag, which is for anybody that is a subscriber to my YouTube channel, you will know that the Q can be an albatross sometimes. So at this score, Josh, would you agree that maybe Jackie's best chance is to somehow, some way, keep the score close enough to bingo with the bag empty and catch Cesar with that Q on his rack? Is that the only way you could imagine some kind of upset here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a player who doesn't really give up, but in this position, I probably would give up. But
Yeah, and
it is still like the non-zero chance. So you got to go
yes,
for it. You got to go for it. All right, theme
and
comes
we
down. That was suggested by someone in chat. It does keep the terrible, terrible WU combination, but it does the exact thing you want to do, which is block that C. So I actually think it's a great play here.
Yeah, that makes total sense. That C was the most dangerous threat currently on the board, an 8-letter word there. And Jackie had the Q after all. So that plan that we were sort of, dreaming on from her perspective to potentially get back in the game, she drew the Q herself, which not only can she not hope for Cesar to have it on his rack, but it slows her down in her quest to get another bingo on the board. So tough game for Jackie, but very nicely played game for our Woogles lead developer. So he again is using the platform that he had a huge hand, probably the most critical hand in designing, and on 3 or 4 hours of sleep, no less, as he plays Joe to block maybe that last good bingo line on the left side of the board.
Yeah, that seems like a great play to seal the deal, even though the deal was probably already sealed. When you're low on sleep, you might start like hallucinating, getting a bit paranoid. So I think making a paranoid play is fine here. um, I want to say the pairings are already up for round 2.
Yeah, I'm looking at him, in fact. So, man, if we weren't just watching Cesar, I would say Cesar versus Bynak is a great matchup for round 2. But
But we
maybe we
should,
can switch over to the
yeah,
Collins division and see if we. Oh, Dr. Bing versus
yeah,
Bodkin.
that's what I'm looking at. That looks
That
like a great
looks
matchup, number
great.
1 matchup there.
Yeah, hard to say no to watching Dr. Bing. That's Dave Wiegand, the name that he is known in the Scrabble community. And the reason that he is called Dr. Bing is an absolutely incredible knowledge of bingo length words that go far beyond 7 and 8-letter words that many of us have studied in the dictionary. Dave Wiegand knows 9-letter words, 10-letter words, 11. I don't even know how far his knowledge goes. And Josh, have you ever had the pleasure of playing Dave Wiegand in Anagrams? Another.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna say in the live game, and I don't know if that would be that pleasurable, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, I think Dave's word knowledge is pretty much infinite. It just takes him a little while to like turn it on. Otherwise, he would just win every single anagrams match. For those of you that don't know, there's a game we play after hours called anagrams in tournaments, and it's basically just a variant of Scrabble where you don't even use a board. You put a bunch of tiles in the center, you separate them evenly between participants, and you start turning the tiles over one by one in the center of the board, and then you just anagram them. And it's a test of speed, of word knowledge. It's an incredible feat when you watch people like Dave Wiegand play this game. It's just like you have no chance. You're just gonna
Yeah,
lose.
the best part of the game too is you can steal other players' words using letters in the center, and that's what Dave is incredible at. Somebody will have an 8 or a 9-letter word that they've taken from the center, and Dave will just steal it with an 11 or a 12 using letters from that center pool. It's really an unbelievable
And
sight.
he
So
does it
one
like
of the
that.
best.
He
Yeah,
just does it like that. Like you get your word, you're like, I got a 9-letter word. Dave's like, nope, micro earthquake, and he just steals it.
Evan Yurko with an amazing anecdote of apparently Dave once stole the word perianth with anti-apartheid. That is absolutely bonkers. So that's the type of anagramming skill that you see from Dave Wiegand. The only issue, of course, is that in Scrabble there are very, very, very limited opportunities to play words longer than. I mean, there are some opportunities to play 9-letter words, but anything longer than that is really like a lightning strike in a game of Scrabble. You almost never see it, like getting struck by lightning, I should say. That it's that type of rarity. But Dave just loves words. He just loves the dictionary and learning all of these fun, obscure words. And I got to admit, it's very impressive. Um,
As you see the
so
game dwindling down here, Cesar goes out with Weil. He's going to win 476 to 355. So
that's a nice,
congratulations. That's a good
yep,
way to start the tournament for Cesar.
nice
And
opening round win.
Jacqueline held her own, 355 points. She was down by 200 points earlier this game, and she kept it to around 120. So kudos to her on that.